4 of the Generic Gaming Podcast.mp3, the podcast where we talk about a new game every single week. My name is Logan and Eric, and I am joined by my esteemed co-host and sound engineer, Eric Kraus.
Hello from the other side of the world.
Eric, this is the first time we've ever recorded remotely. We've done 73 of these before, and we've always been in the same room.
Yeah, always. And now you're possibly sick, so I didn't want to be anywhere near you.
Yeah, we actually were going to record this normally, but I kind of have a scratchy throat. I've been coughing, feeling a little strange, and I'm probably fine. It's probably a lot of, anxiety kind of things, but I figured we might as well be safe, and so we're recording remotely, which honestly is fine. Then I don't have to drive anywhere.
Honestly, it hurts my neck less because, we're sitting on the couch. I have to keep my neck tilted the whole time.
Yeah.
This is way easier.
Yeah, you look comfy in your nice comfy gamer chair guy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I want to get one of those. I'm not going to lie, Eric. I entered like a contest on like primagames.com. Like they're like a news site. And they have a contest for like this like hot pink gamer chair. And I'm like, dude, it's like $350 normally. And I want it.
Yeah. In chat, Cardboard says hi, and I Blame Ryrol says that's social distancing.
Yeah, we we're late for embargo from across the world. And we're still planning on streaming the day this podcast comes out, so that'll be Thursday night, the 26th, and we're just going to be doing some distance, gaming.
Yeah, and honestly, this setup's way easier for me too because everything's in front of me.
Yeah,
it's not like all like kind of cramped over to my left. Like it's all just in front of me. You can see everything. It's great. I love it.
We could just record in your bedroom all the time.
We could, but like that seems cramped and weird.
Yeah, we're both like squished into your webcam.
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds not good. Eric,
it would save your camera.
What have you been playing?
I've been playing a game called Animal Crossing.
Yeah, so you were going to skip out on Animal Crossing, Eric.
I was, but everyone in the world decided that they just want to play Animal Crossing, and so I got massive FOMO and bought it.
Yeah, I got it the day it came out. I was really pumped. I had pre-ordered it because we've all been literally just being in our homes. I'm working from home now, and so I have a lot of time in this house, and I really wanted to play something just like Animal Crossing, and it has been scratching that itch, let me tell you.
Yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with it. I'm torn between... We're going to talk about it next week on the podcast, so I won't say too much, but I'm torn between liking the kind of time gating of the game and not liking it, because like I'll go and play like a bunch in one day, and then like there's a definitive point where you hit somewhere and you're like, okay, I can't do any more until they're done with this stuff, which is going to be tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I wish I could just keep playing, but then I shut it off. And then I go do something else, go be productive, and then I wake up in the morning, I have something to look forward to. So I kind of enjoy that part.
Yeah, I actually kind of love it. I feel like this game has kept me more than a lot of games have in the recent past or whatever. You know what I mean? Like I kind of really like the idea that you kind of hit this wall and you can do stuff, right? You can always farm and whatever, get bells, but like there is kind of like the things you need to do that day. And then you're good. And so I found myself like literally playing every day I've had this game because it's beneficial to do so, and I don't find it like tiresome at all.
Yeah, me too. I've also been playing Doom Eternal, which we're gonna get in the week after next week. And that game's great. I just have like nothing negative to say about that game right now. I'm only a few hours in though. I'm like 3 or 4 hours in, but I can't imagine it's gonna ever go somewhere where I don't like. It's just like an adrenaline-fueled rampage that you go on. You just kill demons and shit. Super fun. Weapons feel great. It's super optimized on PC, and so I'm loving that.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think once I kind of like get sick of Animal Crossing, which I can't see happening maybe in the next 3 years, I'll play Doom Eternal right after that. So 2023.
So yeah, 2023. Jump into Doom Eternal.
Eric, we both played. Well, one of us played a lot more than the other one. A little game that kind of swept the games industry last year, I'd say. I think it was kind of a sleeper hit. Like I feel like I saw a lot of people talking about it, a lot of buzz, but I wouldn't say it really got any like big awards or anything, right? I'm talking about A Plague Tale Innocence. Bum 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 bum. Game of the show. Hell yeah. This is a weird game to talk about right now.
Kind of bad timing, honestly.
We really did think about not recording this episode, and then we just ended up realizing that we wanted more time to play the games we were going to talk about. And I played through the whole game, and I do have things to say about it. So we're gonna talk. It seems prescient, at least. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think if I wouldn't have beat this game at the time I did beat it, I would not have played it. Like dude, if this game came out last week, I would not have touched it.
Yeah, under like the circumstances. I mean, I would like it would have been terrible, like because this game came out around the same time, like around this same time last year, and like so it would have just been like just horribly like awful timing for them to release it.
Yeah,
so
no, horrible.
It's a good time they came out last year. So
yeah, so we're gonna get into some like non-spoilery things. We're gonna talk about impressions. I know you didn't even really play that much of the game.
I have impressions and thoughts though.
No, you have so many thoughts, Eric. This has been kind of actually a like sort of a barrier in our relationship as friends and co-hosts for the past month or so.
Yeah.
So
it's been tearing us apart.
Yeah, A Plague Tale Innocence. It's like a stealth adventure game. It takes place in 15th century France. You're playing as Amicia de Rune, and the story follows her and her younger brother Hugo as they try to survive through this British Inquisition and obviously a plague. Eric, what were your thoughts about the game? I know you played like the first 4 hours, so I feel like you kind of have a good, you're in a good place to talk about like some non-spoilery things.
Yeah, so immediately when you jump into the game, I played on PC, so it's obviously I think gonna have a graphic fidelity step above where you played it on Xbox.
The game is beautiful though.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. You start the game in rural France, like in this kingdom, and like it's fall, so there's just tons of colors, and you're running through the woods, and like it's just absolutely gorgeous to look at. I thought the character models are really cool, like really like stunning. They're very realistic looking character models. And so the game is just great to look at. Where I started having problems is the gameplay. In the beginning, I thought it was fine because it's the early on in the game, you're always a little bit more forgiving of the gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
But like as you go on, it just doesn't evolve as much as I want it to. I know when you get further, you get like more stuff, and like I watched you play a little bit, and you had more tools basically to use, but the overall gist of the gameplay doesn't change that much. And so I just thought the game after my 4 hours was just getting boring.
Yeah, I can see where you would think that, and I don't even disagree necessarily. I think that a lot of the stealth kind of stuff where you're sneaking past guards and you're kind of trying to like fool them is very, I don't know, it's almost just kind of by the numbers, right? You're sneaking past guards, you're throwing stones at rock or at metal things to like make sounds, and it all is like kind of laid out very neatly for you.
Yeah.
And that wasn't even necessarily my problem because it was very easy. The AI is obviously a little they're a little foolish, right? Like honestly, you can like walk right past them and they'll be like, "Oh, what was that?" And then you just kind of walk around the corner and they're like, "Oh, I guess it was nothing."
Yeah, that's something that really took me out of it too, because it just seemed, especially in 2020 when we have like just insane games with like just crazy advanced AI and like things that respond to how you interact with them, it just took me out of it. It felt like I was very much playing a video game when I got to a stealth area and I threw that rock and the guy's like, "Oh, what's this?" Slowly jots over, looks like it. "Oh, looks like it was nothing." And I'm like, it just took me out of it every time because it just seems so dumb at this point,
Yeah, and I don't know, man. I just don't want to I don't want to rag on that too much because I think that this game is at like a different scale than I think. This is not an Assassin's Creed game, right? Like this is more of a AA kind of thing, right? I would consider it, and the game is gorgeous and it looks beautiful, but it kind of plays sort of like that AA tier, if that makes sense. And I think that it fills that role like really well. I think it has this interesting story. I really liked the main character Amicia. I liked her little brother. You kind of get this cast of characters as you go, and I really had no like issues. I thought that they were all interesting. I thought that they kind of had it. I didn't think any of these characters were sort of by the numbers characters, right? And I do think that the game kind of actually at the point that you stopped sort of drags a little bit. I think that it felt, even though this game's short, right? It's like maybe 15 hours or so. It kind of felt like it dragged for, a little, like I would say like from like maybe the first third to like 3/8. I don't know if that, if that math like lines up. There is like a good 3 hours in there that I'm like, I don't know about this, man. And I actually felt the same way where I was just like, I don't really want to play this anymore. I'm probably going to, push this off a little bit. But at a certain point, I think that the game gives you like a lot of interesting tools to play with, and it asks you to like puzzle solve more. Because obviously, other than the guards and stuff, the whole central thing is that there are all these rats, right? And they carry the plague, and so you can't, get eaten by the rats or get bitten by the rats. And so then that adds this whole like cool puzzle, like all these light puzzles. And I none of them are mind blowing either, but I found them to be like fun and satisfying to do. And then the game starts to like merge those with some of the like stealthier stuff. And I feel like the last third of the game or whatever was like it picked up a lot for me. I thought it was really enjoyable. I liked where the story went. I actually liked the gameplay at that point.
Yeah, we're gonna double back a little bit because I think Blame asked a good question in chat. How you were referring to the like it's a double A kind of game, and he asked, "Do you think the game is a symptom of the indie game craze?"
I'm not sure what that means. Could you elaborate on that, Eric?
I think I'm gonna change symptom to kind of like more of like maybe reaction or result. Like I think because he's just says he's just making puns and that's why I use symptom. But I do like I kind of like the essence of the question is because do you think we would have got this game if like indie games weren't so big? 'Cause like I don't remember ever seeing kind of games like in this intermittent scale, like before, like it was always either like big
I feel like
AAA
they used to be
games.
way more popular, right? Like I feel like this is the dude, I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but I feel like actually the games industry has gotten less double A as it's gone, right? Like we have all these huge blockbusters and then we have the small indies, right? And I feel like this game sits in the middle, which is a place that we used to have more, if that makes sense, right? Like I feel like there used to be a lot of those kind of middle of the ground games.
Well, I'm trying to think of some because like I can only think of like mascot games kind of.
No,
that's
what I'm saying, right? Like those were all kind of double A games. Maybe not. Okay. I'm not talking like Spyro and Crash and stuff, but I'm saying like we used to have more on the middle tier, right? And then as the games industry got more money and various things happen, I feel like we have kind of shifted a little bit. And then you're either a giant $1 billion game or you're a small indie, right?
Yeah. Team of 5 people.
But this game in my brain is sort of on the same scale as like a Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice.
Yeah,
like,
okay.
Where it's like the production value is very high, but there is sort of that lack of like $1 billion-ness. And that's not a bad thing, right? Actually, it just doesn't, it doesn't feel like this thing that I know cost, a $1 jillion, and that's why the AI is insane, right?
Mm-hmm.
It feels like a little bit more constrained.
I guess when you compare it to Hellblade, that's another game I stopped playing. So maybe I just don't like AA games. Yeah.
And I think that it sits in a good place because I think that the game has the visuals to sit up to these crazy, high budget games. And I think that the gameplay is like good enough. You know what I mean? And I think the story is fun, and I think the story is interesting and not one that you would see maybe in a game, a AAA game, right? This isn't a game about surviving the zombie apocalypse or shooting dudes, right? It's a game about sneaking around and throwing rocks.
Yeah. So I kind of want to get into the story. I feel like if we just stick with gameplay, I'm gonna be super negative. So
no, for sure. So do you want to stay non-spoilery kind of stuff?
Yeah, we could stay a little bit non-spoilery for a while. Just do like a brief overview.
So right, the story you open up and you're in kind of the Darun, what do you call it? Like their castle,
chateau.
Yeah, whatever, their chateau. They're sort of like lords of this. They're a prominent family. And the game opens and your dad is like teaching you how to use this sling and you're throwing rocks at stuff. You got this dog. His name's Leon, or Leon, right? They all have French accents. It's kind of hard to.
Yeah.
And the dog runs off and gets like eaten by something mysterious, right? You're like, oh, the dog's dead. And then the dad's like, we got to get out of here. No one's going in the woods. And you get back to the place and you're going around and your mom's like, you're not supposed to be here, whatever. You can't because your little brother is sick apparently. Mm-hmm. And then the Inquisition comes. They're all these British soldiers, right? I think that's kind of the deal.
Yeah, that's what I kind of got the idea of.
And they raid your whole chateau. And they are there for your brother for some odd reason. And they kill your dad. And they, you escape with the help of your mother, but she doesn't make it out, right?
Yeah.
And then you're off with your brother. You're trying to figure out, he's still really sick, so you got to figure out how to help him. and the Inquisition is still after you, and also there's all these plague rats.
So I know I said I was going to be negative, but here's where another one of my problems with this game kind of shows up is in between the cutscenes of the game. There's like these little interactional dialogues with the brother and sister. I can't remember their names.
Amicia and Hugo.
Yeah, there's these interactions with them, and you kind of get this kind of subtle character developments with them as you're like kind of going through the world. And I like that when you do that, when that happens in games, it's super awesome. But when you get to cutscenes after like having those dialogues, it seems like all those dialogues that happened, they weren't even a thing. Because there's a point where you're trying to get to this doctor that helped your mother with Hugo's sickness, and on your way there, you and Hugo are bonding and like kind of creating this relationship that you guys they never really had.
Yeah, right. But the whole thing is that the brother and sister were kept separate because he was so sick, and his mother was always with him, and she was kind of more with the dad most of the time.
Yeah, and they kind of start out fighting each other a lot because I mean they don't really know each other, and he's just a little kid, and she's not like a full adult. She's like a teenager or whatever. And so they're fighting a lot. But like as you're going through the world and heading towards this doctor, they're kind of bonding and creating this relationship. But once you get to the doctor, like Hugo like is scared or whatever, and like leans over to Amicia to like want like help or something. I don't really remember. And she just like shoves him off like they didn't have any of that bonding at all.
Yeah.
And it just seems super out of place for me that I get the game is about their relationship mostly and like them building a trust, but it seems super jarring though. It's just like we're just gonna push them away no matter how close they get so we can have this story.
Yeah, a lot of the story kind of creates this conflict between Amicia and Hugo, right? And then it revolves around her not telling him things and that sort of blowing up in her face, and that is like a lot of the plot, which is sort of it feels unnecessary, right? Like it feels like maybe there could have been a different way to do that because we're simultaneously getting this relationship built between them, but also, you know, their relationship torn apart, if that makes sense. So it does kind of feel like this weird dichotomy of like storytelling, right?
Yeah, it just seemed super like separated to me. Like the game what you were doing when you had the controller and the controls of the game was different than what like the cutscenes were, and so like it just made me feel like the actual gameplay was just a means to get to the next cutscene.
Yeah, that makes sense, and I actually do want to talk more about the story in depth, but before we get into that kind of spoiler area, I want to talk about the other central gameplay, which is the rats and these light puzzles, because the rats don't like the light. Because I think that this is where this game sort of shines to me. I thought it was like really kind of fun as this puzzle game, and really, you know, the rats are scary, and they're like the rat tack is crazy, right? Like there's all these like individual little rats, and it feels actually like terrifying most of the time. Like sometimes there are these like insane amounts of rats, dude, thousands of rats in one room. Like they're all just huddled like trying to get at you, and you're the only thing that's saving you is the light of a torch. What did you think? I mean, you hit a couple of those kind of puzzles,
yeah,
right? Like, what did you think?
I thought the rat sections were the coolest parts. It definitely puts what I think is the best elements of this game with the puzzle elements into play, and I liked the sections where you have to deal with the rats way more than I like dealing with the Inquisition. I mean, it's just a cool thing how you mentioned they're all individual rats, like all swarming over each other and like programmed to respond individually to you walking by them, and so it's super cool.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, it's not like literally each one is a one singular rat, right? But it does kind of give this like it is cool because you can see these piles of rats and like look at the individual rats. It's really insane to look at. And I thought the puzzles, like I said, none of them are mind blowing, and none of them I was really never like stuck. I was never like, oh, what do I do? It's always like, there's a torch, right? How do I get to the torch? But I found them to be tense and fun and interesting. So I do want to dive into some spoilery stuff now. All right, if you haven't played a Plague Tale, maybe you want to dip out. Maybe you don't want to play Plague Tale. I think you maybe should wait. That's my final thing, is that should you play this game right now? Probably not. Maybe don't.
Yeah.
Go play.
I mean, it's a good game. Play it maybe just in a happier mindset where it's not as relevantly pressing.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about it towards the end of the show, right? We want to talk about kind of this whole social distancing and kind of how we're doing it in gaming, right? And stuff like that. And I think that'll be interesting. But I do want to talk about, because I'm sure some people, right? Or I saw that like Contagion is like one of the really popular movies right now. But to me, that sounds awful.
Yeah, it
like
just sounds depressing.
I don't want to watch anything that's a bummer right now.
Yeah.
So again, maybe wait a couple months. But yeah, spoilers, right? Eric, I want to talk about. I do want to talk about the end of this game, but I feel like maybe we should ramp up there, right? We just go through the story a little bit more.
Yeah, we can.
Right. So the whole game, you go to this doctor's house, right? He's like this alchemist, right? This is kind of the other part of the game. And you meet the alchemist, but he's sick. He's got the plague. And you know, he has this potion thing that's gonna help Hugo maybe. And his little assistant, whose name's Jacob. I have it written down. Lucas. His name's Lucas. Pretty much
close enough. Same name.
His name's Lucas, and he comes with you, right? Now he's a little part of your gang. And you guys go, and you're going through this huge field where all these Inquisition dudes have just been murdered. There's piles of bodies and stuff. It's crazy. And then you get captured by the Inquisition, brought to this camp. They find Hugo. They're super happy because they need him for some reason. You're like, what's up with Hugo? Why do they all want Hugo? You get rescued by these two, what do you call them? Like thieves? The twin thieves. And they
are street bandits. I don't know.
Yeah. And they're Melly and Arthur. And you're like, why would they save us? And it turns out Lucas kind of fooled them by saying that you are super rich. You're the Darun family, and they will be paid handsomely. So you kind of have this ragtag group of teens here, right? Arthur goes missing. And so it's Melly and Hugo and Amicia and Lucas. And you're in this big old castle that you found. And now you're kind of living in this castle. And you know, the castle has all these cool rat traps that like keep the rats out, right? And I thought that was a pretty fun part of the game where you're like putting all these rats in these big trenches and stuff where they can't get out. And then you have to leave because Hugo's getting really sick. And you have to go find Arthur, which is Melly's, you know, twin or whatever. And you also need to go find this potion. And the potion is like in this book. So you go, and then this is kind of the area where we get a lot more of the story, where they kind of bring in the Inquisition more. And the Inquisition is being led by, I think it's the Catholic Church, because there's all these, you know, talks of popes and priests and archdioceses and stuff. And there's, I'm trying to think of what do they call him, the Inquisitor or whatever. I don't know. He's like this church figure guy.
Yeah, I can't remember what they call him.
And he becomes sort of the central antagonist of the game. And I thought he was really interesting. I think this they play with a lot of like elements of religion and religious fanaticism, because everyone is looking at this archbishop and he's just murdering people left and right, dude. He's having people murdered. He's having whole swaths of villages murdered, but all in the name of like saving everyone from this plague, right?
Yeah.
And he is specifically wants Hugo Darun for some reason, and he's also looking for this book. In that scenario, you meet this dude named Roderick. He's the son of like a master smith. They made this big door, apparently, like big secret door. Roderick's kind of okay. I don't know. He's like sort of a meh character. His big thing is he's like strong and he can break doors, which is like his kind of useful thing.
Yeah.
And he comes back to the chateau with you. You guys live there for a while. You're working on the potion for Hugo. Then all the rats get out. For some reason, the rats are getting angrier and angrier, right? And finally, Hugo finds out that the mom is like still alive. Like the whole thing is that like it was kind of a hit and switch. You assume the mom is dead because there's this whole scene where she pretty much is dead.
Yeah, it looked like she died. You don't see a body, which is the one thing. So
yeah, and it turns out the Inquisition like has her prisoner and is trying to help get her to help them because she's like an alchemist or whatever. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so you have to go after Hugo, and there's this really cool scene actually. This whole sequence, which I think is one of my favorite sequences in the game, where you're playing as Hugo, and so like you're really, everything's small, like the camera is like almost on the floor, and you're sneaking through this giant church, right, and trying to find your mom. And I feel like that was where the stealth like shined. It was very easy. It was very like, here's a little path, right? But it felt super tense because you're just this small kid like sneaking like literally under people's legs. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, damn, this kid's really good at this, huh? Like he's really good.
He knows how to be really quiet.
Yeah, he knows how to be really sneaky. And that was a really fun sequence. I liked that one a lot. And then he finds the mom actually. And then but he ends up getting like captured by the Inquisition anyways. Mm-hmm. And you go after him. You find out that Hugo has like a special blood thing. That's what's been making him so sick. And there's this kind of huge reveal that he actually can control the rats, which I thought was hilarious. Like it felt like this whole game was sort of like, it felt sort of grounded to me. I never really thought that there was going to be this, supernatural element to it. Like I thought it was just a game about the plague.
Yeah.
But it turns out that Hugo is the Rat King.
Not Rat King. Not to be like gloating or tooting my own horn, but I pretty much knew right away that he was going to control the rats.
Dude, I never once, you said that and I was like, that's stupid. I literally thought Eric's dumb. That's stupid.
Yeah.
There's no way that he's going to control the rats. Like that's some sci-fi stuff. Like, or
exactly.
This is like a 15th century plague tale.
Yeah, literally. But like it just seemed, I don't know how you could, like, I don't get why you didn't see that how the story was gonna go. This kid has this mysterious illness that's kept him locked up, and these rats, when his illness is like coming to fruition, all these rats start showing up. Pretty obvious he's the Rat King.
I mean, I feel like the story never like links his illness and the rats very like overtly. Maybe I'm just dumb and everyone else knew it, but I really was like, what? He controls the rats?
I don't know. It just seemed super, cliche. It just seemed like a cliche story thing to me.
I thought it was fun. I actually thought it made the game way more fun because then, now you get to like control the rats to do what you want.
Yeah, I think it's cool, like gameplay mechanic. I just think like the story reasons, like obviously he was gonna control the rats, and I just don't know how you thought I was the crazy one.
I think that's such a wild call, dude. And it's funny because before that, the only other thing that sort of made me think that this was like a kind of a wild game is that they introduced this mechanic of the rats like banding together into these giant piles and like swarming at you.
Yeah.
And we started calling it the Ratnado because that's what it looked like.
Yeah.
And so the thing is that the Ratnado could like break through the light. So then it becomes this kind of like third person shooter thing where you have to like throw your little fire bombs at them to make them disperse. Yeah. And that becomes like this huge mechanic towards the last half of the game where they're constantly throwing these piles of rats at you. And I was like, this is silly, dude. Like, I don't hate it, right? Like, it feels very video game, like...
It just kind of gets goofy.
It is. It felt like this game was so serious for a while, and I'm like, oh man, everyone's dying. All these villages are dying. And then they're like, Ratnado.
Yeah. Rat King, control the rats.
Yep, now he controls the rats. He's the little Rat King. And it turns out that that's the reason that the Inquisitor guy, Archdiocese or whatever, wants to go. He knows he's the Rat King. He also wants to be the Rat King.
Yeah, he wants the Rat King's blood so he can become the Rat King.
Yeah, he takes his blood, and then he can also control the rats, but he's bred other little white rats that he can control specifically, and they're not afraid of light. It's very weird, Eric.
I don't know. Are they afraid of darkness then? They don't like going in the dark?
No, apparently they're afraid of nothing. They're fearless rats.
They're fearless rats.
Yeah, so you go to rescue Hugo. It turns out that Hugo is now the Rat King. He's been sort of brainwashed, and he's really pissed off at Amicia because she lied to him. And so there is this scene where he's like literally going to kill her. He like looks like this little like the kid from Brightburn or what is that what that movie's called?
Yeah. He
looks like that, where he's like all like, backlit with the red and stuff. And he's like, you lied to me. And she's like, I'm your sister. Please don't kill me. And he's like, I'm going to do it.
I'm going to do it.
And then, whatever. He doesn't. That's kind of like this this thing of like, no, Hugo, you're stronger than that. Don't kill me. We're family. And he's like, okay.
Don't do it, Addie.
Yeah, like
you're the chosen one.
Yeah, and so he switches sides again, and now he's a good guy again, and he's the Rat King.
Yeah.
So then you go on a mission to like rescue your mom or whatever, and you go into this big castle that you've already been to, and you have this big old fight with the Inquisitor guy, right? And now he's controlling all the white rats, and Hugo's controlling all the regular rats. And this is this final boss fight, which I did not think this game would have. Of swarms of rats, dude. So many rats, and you kind of have to like dodge them and throw these stones and stuff. It's actually kind of annoying. I didn't love the final boss fight. You watched me do it, and I had to do it like 7 times.
Yeah, because it was kind of ridiculous because you have to kind of, it does the thing where like, okay, use everything you've learned in the game, but it like throws it at you in like a weird order and all at once, and so it's just like, control the rats, stop these rats, throw things at this thing so that it stops those rats.
Yeah. And then the story ends and everyone's all good, and now he's the Rat King, but all the rats are gone. You've purged the plague. Everything's back to normal. Everything's now you're hanging out with Lucas, going on a little adventures. And
calling on the rats whenever you need them.
No, yeah, I think the rats are gone. I think Hugo he stepped down he took off his rat crown.
Yeah.
And so that's the story.
Until the day comes when they need him again.
Yeah, until the rats, they're not the rats that we want. They're the rats we deserve.
Yeah.
No, I thought the story was it was interesting. I don't know, man. I just can't say it was like it didn't affect me in saying I didn't get to the done with the story and like have to sit down and be like, wow, that was crazy. But it was a good time. It was it took a goofier route than I thought it was going to. It did end up kind of feeling like some movie that would be sort of. It almost is weird because it's got this dark, serious tone, right? And then they throw in the Ratnado and the Rat King, and it doesn't break tone, right? Like, and it's
it keeps the tone, but it's doing ridiculous things.
And it's like I didn't hate it, right? It sounds so goofy, but I was never like, oh man, this is stupid, right? I just thought it was, like, silly.
Yeah.
But it kept the tone, and I thought that it was overall pretty serviceable. I thought it was a fun story. It was interesting. It dealt with a lot of things that we don't see in games a lot, right? Like illness, right? Like, it's this world that is kind of constantly fighting against you, and it's sort of destroyed, and there's all these rats and stuff, and it almost feels like it doesn't really want you to explore. It's got you kind of on this tight path because that's the only path that the rats can't get you, right? So it just feels, I don't know, in the game it dealt with a lot of things that we see all the time, right? Family, grieving, the loss of parents, but I think it does a lot with like religion and that are interesting.
Definitely.
Yeah, I guess that's my take on a Plague Tale. I think it was worth playing, right? It wasn't, I don't think, some sort of game of the year, right? It wasn't this crazy you must play, but it was like I was glad I played it. I thought it was interesting, especially we were just getting into this Corona stuff, right?
Yeah.
And it didn't feel as prescient as it does now, right? It wasn't as affecting my life literally. And so it was like, wow, this has got some weird parallels to real life, right? Where everyone's like shut in and they put these giant X's on the door if people like have the plague, and people are just getting murdered for having the plague. But yeah, I don't know, man. That's what I got to say.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. We both played this on Game Pass, so we didn't pay anything other than our Game Pass monthly subscription.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you have Game Pass, I think it's worth it.
Yeah, I think it's definitely worth jumping into. I don't know. It's probably a $20 or $30 game.
It actually, for a long time, I didn't play this game for a long time because it was like $50.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I'd say if it's $20, definitely worth getting it, or if you have Game Pass, obviously. But I wouldn't pay over $30 for this game.
No.
I obviously didn't even beat it, so...
No, yeah, and I know that you were more sour on it than I was, and I don't even know if I did a good job explaining why I liked it. But yeah, it felt like I was happy I played it. You know what I mean? That's kind of just all you can say. At the end of the day, it felt like a good 15 hours of game, not, why did I do that?
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, that's all I got to say about a Plague Tale, man. Should we go into the hot topic?
Go for it.
I want to talk about social distancing and gaming. And I'm not even, I guess my original hot topic was sort of like, what do we think you should play right now? What is a good thing to kind of get your mind off of this anxiety-filled time?
Yeah. But number one, obviously, Animal Crossing.
Yeah, I do think that Animal Crossing has come at this time that is almost perfect for that game, because when I'm playing, it's so happy and cute, right? And I'm just like not worried about much, just worried about getting those fruit, selling the fruit, getting the bells, paying off my debt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But obviously that's not for everyone. So I just was thinking about, I don't know, man. Well, what else do you think? Do you think that Doom has been a weird thing? Because that's kind of a doom and gloom kind of thing.
I don't know. Doom isn't. It's obviously not like a depressing game. It's like an adrenaline game and an anxiety-inducing game. I do find myself only playing Doom like an hour or two at a time, or like I'll just clear a level and put it down. I don't know if that's in part with because I have Animal Crossing and I kind of would rather be playing that right now, or if it is because like I don't need more stress in my life right now. And so it's like just having that stress is just kind of like adding to it,
Yeah.
I've also been playing Remnant from the Ashes again, but I've been playing that with my friend Jake, and so that game really hasn't been much about the story in that game. And I mean, that game's a post-apocalyptic game too, and kind of dealing with all this stuff, but like that game's been fun because like I'm talking with my friend Jake all the time, and like we're like it's keeping me from just being isolated in the apartment by myself. You know, I'm talking with someone, doing something with someone, and it kind of gives that like feeling of not just being by yourself.
Yeah, it's funny how much like I've actually wanted to be interacting with other people. I don't play games socially, right? Like I'm not a person who likes to jump on and play, you know, whatever with my friends usually. But I actually have had a ton of fun like interacting with people in Animal Crossing and be like, oh, you come to my island and like I have the time, let's sit down and explore or whatever.
Yeah.
And I just feel like maybe it's because we're all kind of craving this like social interaction. But I found myself like even just like, you know, we have our Discord, and I've just like been, you know, in there way more like talking to people and stuff, and that's been super fun. So I don't know, man. It's just we're in such a weird time. That I'm like super happy that I have these games that can sort of keep my mind off of it.
Yeah, I feel like there's definitely probably people out there like that this quarantine and like kind of isolation thing's probably affecting way more than like people like us that have the games to just go to. Like, I don't really feel like my day-to-day has changed all that much, right? I just go out less. Obviously, I'd go to the bar or like go get coffee way more often than I do now because they're all closed and I can't go out. But like, I feel like I'm doing the same things I regularly do, and if anything, I just feel like I should be being more productive now because I have more time to do the things that I want to do and get done. So
yeah, it's dude, it's funny, and maybe this is just because because of the person I am. I've had so much time to do the things that I always say I'm gonna do when I have time, like write and finish a bunch of stuff. And I've had just no drive, dude. Like I look at that stuff and I go, oh my god, I do not want to do that right now.
Yeah. I don't know. They're always in like lingering in my mind to do like those things. Like I want to finish. How long have I been working on this review for the game? And so like I kind of want to finish that up, and I know I'm going to do that sometime this week, and hopefully get that review up for Coffee Talk on Monday. Even though we already had a podcast about it a long time ago, but I just want to get it out, finish the video, and have it off my plate so I could do the next one. You know?
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know, just for anyone who watches our content or listens to our content, I know we took a week off, but that was kind of planned anyways because we were going to be traveling. And now we're back sooner than we were going to be. Yeah. And we're still planning on recording this podcast. I actually think this format works relatively well. I think it's probably easier for you, right? Because you said you have everything just kind of right in front of you. You could.
Yeah, it is easier for me to do it this way. So
yeah, and you know, we're still planning on streaming tomorrow, and we're gonna do you know, I'm just gonna kind of be in Discord, and we'll be kind of doing it that way, more of a social gaming kind of thing.
Yeah, and yeah, it's basically I'll just be hosting a LAN party for now on until this passes.
Eric gets to be the man behind the computer.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess, you know, I want to leave everyone by saying that now I don't know if I'm sure by now everyone knows. If you don't have to leave your house, if you don't need to go to the grocery store or whatever, just don't leave. Please stay in. Don't go out. Yeah. Don't talk. Don't go see anyone. Don't go have a party. Whatever. That's dumb. Please don't do that. Please social distance. I've been freaking out, Eric, because I am feeling a little sick, and I know I'm probably fine, and I'm probably going to be fine, but I just keep reading these horror stories about people, you know, not being able to breathe and having to go on ventilators, and then it makes me not be able to breathe, and I'm like, oh no, what's going on?
Yeah.
So that's fun.
Well, hopefully you'll be good.
Yeah, and so that's why obviously we were not near each other. And you literally, I like that you came and dropped off the mic today because I needed this mic, and you just left it on the porch, and you were like, "Hey, it's on the porch. Go get the mic." And I was like, "Okay, cool."
6 feet away, more than that too. I was like, I don't want to risk it. There's no point. Even if you're not sick, there's no point in even risking it.
For sure. I actually, now that I think about it, I should have had you also bring my Xbox or something, because I'm like, oh, fuck, I also want to play things on there. But I'm going to figure it out at some point.
Yeah, I can always drop that off, too.
Cool. Well, I think we're good. Do you have any final thoughts, Eric?
Nope. If your primary hasn't happened in your state yet, if you live in the United States, get an absentee ballot and put that in and vote.
Yeah, good idea. Everyone stay safe. I actually literally am like, I am thinking about you because I'm thinking about everyone all the time. Yeah, hopefully, you know, we'll all be good next week.
Well, even if this isn't going to pass next week, so I don't want to say that.
No, I meant, never mind. It's fine.
Okay,
Anyway,
I don't know it.
This has been the Late for Embargo. Oh my God, Eric. I'm brain dead. This has been the Generic Gaming Podcast.mp3. Thank you so much for listening. Please tune in next week when we all wake up from this horrible nightmare and we collectively breathe a sigh of relief. Anyways, we love you, unless you suck, in which case we don't, and you should probably work on that. Stay safe.